that by default, I think, was a huge advantage on my part. And I definitely encourage anyone who's interested in this to seek out a program that kind of gives you that opportunity to grow in whatever capacity that you want to, so that you know you're being supported.
Here we are picking back up on our conversation with Avni. She discusses an example from her own life and where her "you can do anything" mentality shines through.
So that's kind of how I do everything in life. One example that I give is when I planned the She Leads Makeathon, or I think 6 months before the Makeathon, I wrote in my calendar. I booked in that calendar and I said, okay, this weekend, March 9th and 10th, we're going to have our Makeathon. At that point, I didn't know even the name of our brand. I didn't have a team. I didn't even understand what we were going to do at this Makeathon, what the implications were, where we wanted to have it, nothing. I had no information. These were all things I need to figure out, but I wrote it in my calendar, and then I told everybody. I told my mom, I told my dad, I told my friends, I told my teachers. I just told everybody, because the second I said it out loud, it became real, because I'm just not one to I would never embarrass myself and not make it happen. At that point, if I didn't make it happen, then everybody would know I was a failure, because I told everyone. So that was one thing that I kind of did to make myself make sure that that weekend the Makeathon was going to happen. And that was the weekend it ended up happening. It's when one thing that helps if you really want to make sure that you're not cheating yourself into not having a positive mindset is say it out loud, write it down, tell everyone. Then it really becomes real, and then you work towards that goal. And naturally, you don't want to be a failure, and you want to prove to everyone else that what you said, you're going to make happen. You're going to work hard enough to make it happen, and it's going to happen.
I think that's a really interesting perspective on that, because sometimes I've definitely seen people New Year's resolutions. There's definitely two ways you can take it. You can take it oh, I really want to lose 15 pounds, and people love saying they want to lose 15 pounds. So by the time they hit March, they haven't hit they haven't even marked off 5 pounds, and they're well, I'm wanting to, I'm going to. Whereas you have the mindset of, I'm going to lose 15 pounds. I'm going to tell everyone that I'm going to lose 15 pounds, and I'm going to do it, because the world's holding me accountable now. And if I mess up, it's on me, which I think is awesome. But something I've just been so curious about, especially with you and your mindset and with She Leads, is how you were a college student and you just graduated this year, which is a huge congratulations to you. I'm so excited for the future. But at the same time, a lot of, there's a lot of emerging young entrepreneurs right now. So how were you able to create something so big within those 4 years? Was college a hindrance to you? Did college help you? What did it look like?
Yeah. I think a little bit of what I'm going to say is going to come at a slight bias, because in the program that I was in college, they really, really encourage you to build projects, and they actually allocated a certain number of classes and units to give you to just truly build on this project or business of yours. So I think just by that default, I had an extreme support from my faculty, professors, and colleagues that this is what she's doing, this is a priority in her life. And then also given the opportunity, resources, and time to build upon that. So that by default, I think, was a huge advantage on my part. And I definitely encourage anyone who's interested in this to seek out a program that kind of gives you that opportunity to grow in whatever capacity that you want to, so that you know you're being supported. So that was number one, a big thing. I think the other thing is really building a strong team. So from the very beginning, I had a pretty big team of young, extremely talented, extremely creative women who kind of stood behind me by the mission. And honestly, none of us really knew what we were doing, and none of us had done this before, but really building a team of girls who had experienced this problem on a firsthand. I mean, they're all entrepreneurs themselves. So that really helped, because it kind of felt like their problem, not just my problem, but also their problem, to give back to the community and to make impact happen. So I think that number 2 is like really building a team. Like no entrepreneur is successful alone. You know, like if you hear of all the like famous examples and histories and all the great companies that I'm formed, it was always a team effort.
Yeah.
So really honing into that like as well.
And how did you build your team? How did you choose someone and say, I really believe in you. I think you're a value to what I'm going to have.
Mm-hmm.
Can you come on? I know some people who get really excited about a project and then people flock to the idea and they go, I want you, and they'll just pick immediately. And sometimes it doesn't turn out to be the best. So how did you build your team?
Yeah, so I would say that I actually kind of didn't really build it. It kind of just like fell in my lap, which I think is a really spoiled thing to say, right? It's like they came to me per se. So I kind of told one of my friends, she's a little bit younger than me, and I told her about my idea, and I was like, hey, like I think this is a really great like thing that we should do. Like I would love for you to be a part of it with me. You know, I resonate with like your skills. I resonate with your ideas. I think we think the same, so we'd be a great team. And the next day she came, but she came with like 10 other girls, her friends, who were saying me too. Like they were all just as talented as her, working with her in the same program, all just like her in the sense that we were all young female entrepreneurs who resonate with the idea. And immediately, like that was my team, you know, and it was an incredible thing to see all these girls raise their hand and be like, yes, include me. Like we are passionate about this too. So I think with that, I would say like 2 things. Like 1, surround yourself with like-minded people, right? So like if you're passionate about a topic, like go out and surround yourself in a community of other people who are passionate about the same things, because it's really easy to get them to rally around whatever you're working on, right? And then I think number 2, like the idea that you have, and this is like I would say more like business perspective, but make sure that whatever that idea is, it's really something that like people want, people need, right? So like in this particular case, the reason why they were immediately like, yes, like I want to be in this team, because they were experiencing that exact problem in their day-to-day life, where they were looking for some sort of community and some sort of way to build themselves as a female entrepreneur. And so I'd say like when you're building a business or you're building a team, like really try to do those 2 things.
Definitely. And when it comes to, because you definitely built a wonderful team of people, but then you expanded that and you got so many crazy partners and sponsors. How did you accomplish that? How did you do that? How did that happen?
Yeah, that was an effort. For sure. I think of one of the other things is that like at that moment we were not really a name that anyone recognized. We kind of had no prior example of success or any sort of backing that like what we were doing was real or that we would do it well. And so it was pretty difficult to get people behind this idea, right? Because they don't know who we are. We're just a bunch of students. They don't know if we're like being serious. So I think what I really like did was I just reached out to like a massive number of people, pretty much like connecting, and I don't know, like maybe like 50 plus people a day, like really utilizing my network, and really putting myself out there. So that's kind of 3 things I just talked about. So number 1, like is I had a pretty big network in front of me that I had been building for years, right? 1 was I was leading a chapter of Girls in Tech. So through that process, I had met a lot of like people in the industry, especially people who kind of shared an interest in like the gender imbalance. So number 1, and so I think for all the young entrepreneurs out there, like even if you don't have an immediate idea, like one day you will. And so you want to tap into your network. So every day, like build that network. And that kind of ties back into what I said earlier. It's like build that network in a community that you're passionate about, right? So that like when you do build that network, it's relevant and like you can actually like tap into people who want to help you pursue that like goal that you have. So that's number 1. And then number 2 is understanding that of everybody you reach out, like you're going to get a max of like 10% response, right? And nobody should take that personally, right? It's like everybody has so much to do on their plate. Everyone has their own dreams and goals and passions. And so with that in mind, you have to really to get someone to invest their time into you, you really have to build a compelling story, and you can't expect that every single person you reach out to is going to resonate with you, because everyone has different experiences. So if you keep that in mind, that like your max going to get a 10% response rate, probably less, then you kind of calculate, okay, how many partners do I have, or how many people do I want to say yes in whatever situation is, and maybe that's 10 or 20. Then you kind of do the math and see, okay, so I need to reach out to this many people, and then at that point you're kind of guaranteeing yourself that, okay, I'm gonna eventually get, the responses that I need. And also like really looking at your timeline, right? So it's like if you have 6 months versus 6 weeks, right? So if you have 6 months, maybe you can reach out to, maybe it's like 300, 400 people. You can reach out to those people, maybe like a couple every, or like maybe like do like 20 a week or something. But then if you have, like 6 weeks, you kind of just have to cram that out, like do like 100 a day. And at that point, like templating helps, like creating templatized emails and stuff, but then changing up maybe a couple words here and there so that the person that you're emailing kind of resonates more closely with what they're saying. So you can kind of personalize it for them so that it shows that you're not spamming people, that you're actually looking into the person that you're sending that information out to, and that they actually can be helpful for you,
Yeah, that is.
So I'd say, yeah.
No, that's so awesome. I'm glad that I can definitely tell that you had that tech background, you have the art background, because you have a great skill set that you're blending so many parts into. And just hearing you speak, I can hear the very logistical side, but I can also see the extreme creativity that you have to have sometimes in order to make that effort, right? I could keep talking to you for hours, but unfortunately we're running out of time. Where can everyone find you? And where can everyone get in contact with you?
Yes, definitely. So you can visit us on our website, sheleads.io. And right there's a little subscribe button. So you can just pop it in your email and press subscribe, and you'll hear about any new events we're having in your area, scholarships that we have. We have a mentorship program where we connect young high school girls to female founders to build their own businesses. If you want to hear about, program details, we have products and merch that we're launching, if you want to be the first to hear about that, like any of that, like you want to subscribe so that you can hear about that. And we also have an Instagram as well, so you can kind of get in touch with us on social media as well. So our Instagram handle is sheleads.io as well.
Awesome. Well, Avni, thank you so much for being on.
Thank you so much for having me. I had a really great time talking to you.
So much for taking the time to listen to this interview series. I would love to know some of your best takeaways. You can find me easily on LinkedIn or Instagram just by searching Ava Wettrick, and I'll happily get back to you and have a conversation. If you really enjoyed this episode, please feel free to leave a rating in iTunes. That act will compound in ways that I can't even imagine. As you have just found a mentor here, go out into the world and see who you can be a mentor to today.